Hey guys, so today's video is a guide on how to do a toe-side pendulum slide. This is a basic longboard slide and is going to set the foundations for all the other toe-side slides that you do, so it's pretty necessary. So if you want to learn how to toe-side slide, I highly recommend you check out this video. As well, this video is a part of a bigger skill tree guide where I pretty much teach you everything you need to know to go from being a beginner all the way to maybe even a pro downhill skater. So yeah, if you want to learn more about that, check out the link in the description. It will link you to the skill tree and all the things you need to learn. First things first, what is a toe-side pendulum slide? Also known as a backside pendulum slide, a toe-side pendulum is when you swing into one direction then swing back, but this time your toes are going to be pointed up the hill, or rather your bum is going to be pointed down the hill. And yeah, that's what a toe-side is. I think this slide is going to feel a lot more natural for some people, and yeah, a lot of people should get to grips with it faster. And you know, if you're lucky and if you're a quick learner, you might be able to get it down in one session. Before trying this slide, there are a few things that you should already know. So first thing, you should know how to carve, and the other thing is you should know how to slow down. Now, slowing down, you can do it either by foot braking or by doing a push-up or shutdown slide. Previously taught you guys how to do a Coleman slide and how to do a push-up slide, and they'll be both very useful here. You should also know how to set up Carve, as it's going to be pretty necessary for doing the slide, and it's going to make your life easier. And if you're trying it without the setup curve, you're going to make your life a lot more difficult. I also recommend checking out the other guides in my skill tree list. This guide is going to build off the progress and all the experience and knowledge you gain from following those specific guides. Okay, so the first step, or rather step 0.1, is get comfortable carving toe side. A key to getting comfortable with toe side slides and attempting them is simply getting comfortable doing hard carves with a hand on the ground. And this is called hand drag carving. It's like you're basically practicing the setup carve without actually sliding, and it should allow you to get really comfortable and really get used to doing hard carves toe side, really build that confidence and as well as that muscle memory. Next step, or rather step 0.2, is foot positioning and body positioning. Now I'm going to refer another video that I did before. I'm going to link it here, I believe, or whichever. And yeah, it's basically talking about the foot positioning and body positioning and goes really in depth, and I don't want to repeat myself, so please check out the video. One thing I will plug also is the article. So I have a in-depth write-up for this guide, so link in the description if you want a more articulate and thorough version of this video. By the way, I'm going to be teaching this slide with you not grabbing rail. I think it's going to be a bit easier to learn and you're going to have more control. However, I have taught some people who've grabbed rail and I found it a lot easier than not grabbing. So there's that. Both methods, or rather the things that I teach, apply to both. So it's just really interchangeable and you can sort of switch it up however you want. So step 1, the first thing you're going to need is a lot of speed. I highly recommend learning this slide on a hill, as you're not going to get enough speed from simply pushing in. You need a hill to pick up enough speed. If you already know how to slow down through either foot braking, doing a Coleman slide, or doing a shutdown slide, you should have no fear going fast. And yeah. Okay, so step 2. So after gaining enough speed, you're going to want to then do the setup curve. At this point of this step, at the end of this step, you're going to end up in this position of the setup curve where you're going to be crouched down with your hand on the ground, just about ready to kick out the board, or rather do the things you need to do to get the board to slide. Okay, so step 2.1, at this point of the setup curve, this is when you should be kicking the board out into the slide. Now with the next step, I'm going to give you more details of the kick out and what you need to do and XYZ and all that good stuff. So step 3, at this point you're going to be kicking the board out into the slide. The kick out is basically you just pushing your back foot very hard. You push the back of the board with your back foot pretty hard whilst keeping your front foot firm and planted. This should get the back of the board to start drifting out. So when this happens, you keep pushing with your back foot and you push, and the board should continue to go past 90 degrees. At the same time, your shoulders and arms should naturally swing up the hill, or rather to face up the hill at the same rate that your board is going past 90 degrees. Your shoulders naturally want to follow the board and you should allow them to do so. Another key point is you can also turn your head to look up the hill, and this should allow your shoulders to naturally follow as well. And this is going to be something you should try if you're having trouble, getting your body to rotate with the board when you kick it out. Finally, you should end up in a position like this. Okay, so I'm going to quickly read out some important points for this step. So first one is you're going to want to have most of your weight on your front foot, about 50 to 70% of it. You're then going to have about 20% of weight on your back foot, and then about 10 to 20% of your weight on your hand. Next thing is you need to be applying weight on the balls of your feet, or rather on your toes. This will allow you to really dig into the board, and it will give you the leverage you need to be able to push the board out, get it to slide, maintain the slide, and not high side. Next point, don't go super far over 90 degrees when you kick the board out. You should try to maintain a shallow angle. 100, 110 or even 120 degrees will be adequate. Going really far over 90 degrees will mean a more sudden and sharp hookup from the slide, because you'll have to be more exaggerated in your motion to swing the board back effectively. So just keep that in mind when you're swinging the board out. Another thing is make sure your front leg is planted. Another thing is when the board is pushed out, keep your legs stiff. This will give you optimal control and will allow you to hold the slide comfortably. Finally, you're going to want to push the board out, or rather with your back foot, you're going to want to push the board out and down at the same time, not just outwards. Pushing out and down at the same time will give you good control over the board. Pushing outwards can sometimes lead to your foot slipping off. Also, I know I didn't touch on where exactly to put your back foot. I think I did in the other video, but you can either put it on the rail or you can use the W of your board, whichever is more comfortable and more natural for you. Okay, so step 4, you've successfully gotten the board to swing out. Now let's focus on swinging the board back in. What you need to do for this step is start releasing pressure on your back foot. By releasing pressure on the back foot, the board should naturally start to come back from that over 90 degrees. As you're doing that, you should also be maintaining weight and pressure on your front foot, as well as keeping it stiff. Your shoulders should also naturally follow the board and should start swinging back in. If you're having trouble with this, start bringing your arm in, your arm of the trailing shoulder, or rather the hand on the ground, and this should help you sort of bring your body back a little bit, or rather your shoulders back. So yeah, as you're releasing pressure, you guide the board slowly, and yeah, as you do this, the board should naturally come back from almost 90 and should be back to going almost straight again, and it should naturally hook up and keep going straight. Finally, as you hook up, bend your knees and bend and get closer to the board. This should allow you to absorb the hookup, especially if it's really harsh. And yeah, it should just help you stay in control and give you a much cleaner hookup. It's going to be a bit more challenging to do if you're grabbing rail, but you can also do it when you are grabbing rail. It's not really a necessary step or a necessary part, but I think it's really nice, and it's something I do to stay in control and have those really clean hookups. Okay, so some key points. If you're not grabbing rail, you can lightly swing your arm back, and this should help the board rotate and hook up, or rather if you're having trouble bringing your body back, it should also help with that. And this only works, of course, if you're not grabbing rail, so your arm will be free. But yeah, and when I say lightly, I mean lightly. Moving your arms wildly is not really going to help you much here. Sometimes when you release pressure off the back foot, the hookup can be very sharp or sudden. Stay loose and be ready to bend your knees to absorb that sharp hookup. Sometimes you can also push out with your front foot to help the board rotate and come back the other way, and also put yourself in a better position for the hookup. Finally, make sure you have enough speed when attempting the swing back, as you might have trouble bringing the board back if you're going too slow. Now let's look at some troubleshooting. So in Coleman slides, the shoulders are going to be doing most of the work and the board follows. In Toeside Pendulum slides, what I found is that the feet do most of the work and your body and shoulders follow. It's about managing how stiff your front foot is and how much pressure you can apply with your back foot, and allowing your shoulders and arms to follow. You can get your shoulders to help a bit, yes, but they won't be as effective or as useful here as they were with Coleman slides. Just something to keep in mind, they are quite different. In this slide as well, wildly swinging your arms may not help very well, but it is useful to have like your free arm up there, as it can help with balance and sometimes to help you hook up the board. Of course, that only applies to not grabbing rail. Another thing is, as you turn, your shoulders should face up the hill. You can also turn your arm that's on the ground and have your fingers face up the hill. Personally, this has helped me stay more in control and be more comfortable doing pendulum slides and being in that whatever way you're sliding backwards down the hill. And yeah, just a tip, might not help all of you, but it might help some of you. Another thing is keep your head facing forward down the hill as much as you can. Of course, if you did use my tip where you swing back to look up the hill, this may not apply to you, but eventually, yes, your head should always be facing down the hill as much as you can. Okay, so the next thing that I want to touch on is, should you get a footstop? A footstop is this little nifty thing that people use to keep their front foot locked in and from slipping off when doing toe sides. So if your foot is slipping off or you don't feel like you have enough leverage on the board, getting a footstop will help you keep locked in and keep your front foot from slipping off. The other option as well is getting coarser grip tape. And yeah, that should keep you locked in a little bit more. It's also really easy to make your own footstop, and I have a video where I talk about that. I think I'll link it here, or I don't know where the thing is, here or there, and you can check that out as well. Okay, so the last thing I want to touch on is what causes a high side. A high side is basically when you fall in front of your board. Now when you're doing toe sides, this is very risky as you're basically going to be falling backwards down the hill, and what happens is you might end up hitting your head or you might end up with road rash on your back. It's just not very nice. So here are some of the things in my experience that have caused high sides for me. So the first one is having my hand too close to the board. By having my hand too close to the board, I haven't really been able to lean off the board enough and get the leverage I need to control and maintain the slide. The other thing is not having my weight on my toes, or rather on the balls of my feet. So having my weight on my heels or the middle of my foot has kind of sometimes made the board go like this, and it's thrown me off and I've had a high side. The other thing is having a bad setup carve. When you don't do a good setup carve, you put your weight in a really awkward position and you're not really able to kick out the board properly. Another thing is having really grippy wheels. When you have really grippy wheels, you need to switch up your technique and really like work hard to get them to slide well. Sometimes you high side. Another thing is not having my shoulders and my body in the correct position. If I'm not leaning off enough, if I'm leaning too on top of the board, or if I'm just in an awkward position, that can make me high side. Finally, another thing is being too quick to push the board out when I'm not in the right position. So for example, I'm doing a setup carve and then I'm not in the right position. It can cause me to high side. Conversely, if you're kicking out the board too late at some point of the setup carve, so if you get into the setup carve but then you hesitate and then you try to kick the board out, you lose that bit of momentum that the setup carve gives you that makes it easy to kick the board out, and when you do that, it becomes easy to high side or even to low side. So yeah, the last thing is feet slipping off, sometimes with like really fine grip tape or grip tape that's just worn out. My feet slip off and that has sometimes led to a high side. So yeah, those are some of my reasons. If you guys have any other reasons that you've identified in your experience with toe sides, feel free to leave them in the comments. And yeah, that's pretty much the end of the video. If this video was really useful to you and helpful to you, leave a comment in the comment, whatever, the place where they put the comments. It really helps the video. It's going to help the channel as well. And yeah, this video is a bit difficult to make for me. Toe sides are very natural for me, and yeah, I also think I teach them in a way that is not going to be the best for everyone. But yeah, let me know what you think. If you guys want me to change anything in the video, I can always re-upload, or I can always change the article. So yeah, let me know what you think. And as always, big thanks to my patrons, big thanks to everyone who subscribed so far. Really cool that we have like as many subscribers as we do. And yeah, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.